Hello, I'm Julie Williams, Registered Migration Agent with Migration Down Under, and I'm here to talk to you about your sponsorship obligations as an employer. A lot of employers get very excited when we ring them to tell them the sponsorship's been approved for them to sponsor their current nominee or any future nominees that they may have that they need to have employed with them to help with the skill shortage labour market here in Australia. Whilst they get excited, they seem to overlook that they've got obligations that they need to continue to meet. There's a number of obligations as a business sponsor that that have to be upheld through the duration of your sponsorship, and for a certain period once your sponsorship expires, whilst you continue to employ 457 holders. Just as a brief outline, this is certainly not all of them, but some of the main points that you need to keep in consideration as a sponsor is that you've got to continue to maintain records of your temporary 457 holders' salary. You've got to maintain records of training your Australian employees. So if you were approved as a business sponsor on the provision that you spend 1% of payroll on training your Australian employees, you must maintain those records, because at any time the Department of Immigration have the rights to contact you or to turn up as part of their business monitoring requirements. They can request that you provide them, and usually when they do, they give you a 28-day turnaround. And as an employer, you're very busy with a lot of other things, so if you haven't maintained that, it can be quite onerous to then produce it. And if you haven't maintained it and you do have trouble in being able to produce it, then you can risk quite hefty fines. So it's important to note, whilst you get excited that sponsorship's been approved, of your obligations and ongoing obligations. You must make certain that the temporary 457 holder is working in the conditions of their employment contract, so they have the same terms and conditions that Australian employees have. It's a full-time position. A lot of tradespeople tend to, once they employ them then as a casual or a contractor. You can't do that because the 457 program is for full-time employees only. So you must pay them their full-time pay. They are entitled to annual leave, sick leave, other leave that under the Fair Work Act, and you must pay them superannuation. Other obligations: if the employee does leave, you do need to notify the Department of Immigration, the Business Monitoring Unit, within 28 days of their departure. Otherwise, if they are found to be unlawful beyond that 28 days, you as the last sponsor and employer could be liable for the removal of them from Australia, which can be quite costly. The other obligation is if they are to leave your employment, if they are not going to another employer and they're leaving because perhaps they've resigned or you've made them redundant, you need to, if they request it in writing, that you pay for their their airfare back to their home country. You have an obligation to do so for them and any dependents that you've sponsored on the 457. The other obligations that you also need to maintain is if you move office, you need to notify them of your new address, as well as notifying them of any changes in directors as well. So there's quite a list of obligations. They can be found on our website at Migration Down Under, or they can be found on the Department of Immigration and Border website as well. But if you do want further information, if you'd like to have a discussion with us about your obligations that you're a little unsure about, please don't hesitate in letting us know and getting in touch, either via email, info@migrationdownunder.com, or through our LinkedIn page, or giving us a call on 02 9419 5411.